Thank you. Great to have you with us this Monday evening on BBC London. Coming up, how tenants living in high-rise homes made with prefab concrete panels say they fear for their safety after Grenfell.
It's not even short-sighted because they knew this. You know, nothing new is happening here. The council knew these blocks are dangerous.
London councils say they're taking action. We have a special report. Also tonight, more than 3,000 homes and businesses left without gas in North London after a water leak. Plus, not everyone thinks this mural is practically perfect, as a West London resident is ordered to remove it. And a tribute to the Traitors host? We speak to the amateur baker whose cake has gone viral. Hello and a very warm welcome to the programme. We start with the safety concerns of Londoners living in tower blocks, an issue we have been following closely. Tonight, some people in high-rise homes made with prefab concrete panels have told us they fear for their safety of their buildings nearly 8 years on from the Grenfell fire. They say they're living with cracks in the walls and ceilings that have led to water leaks and mould. Our reporter Aisha Baksh has this special report.
On the Ledbury estate in Peckham in southeast London are 4 high-rise tower blocks.
Was just coming like a gush of water. I nearly walked into it. So you can see here the wall was all leaked with water going into my electricity, and I was quite scared.
First came the water leaks and then the gaps in the walls.
There's a gap there, and when it's very warm, you can see the cracks opening.
This single parent who works in education was moved from a hostel to one of the towers and asked not to be identified. She says cracks and water leaks were a big problem.
I moved happily here. A few months later, I started having leaks in the kitchen, as you can see, all across the kitchen. That affected my electricity. It blowed up my washing machine socket.
And she became especially fearful when there was a small fire in the block.
I panicked. I took my daughter, let's go, let's go, let's go. And she started to cry. Neighbors were all running down the stairs and she saw me and, oh, don't worry, I will take her, I will take her. It was very scary for me. That's when I actually started to take anxiety pills.
The tower blocks were some of hundreds built in the late 60s and known as large panel system buildings.
The whole of one wall is done in a single part.
They were made from prefabricated concrete panels that were bolted together.
London, Ronan Point.
It was the same method used at Ronan Point in Newham. It partially collapsed following a gas explosion in 1968, in which 4 people died and many were injured. The government then told councils to strengthen their LPS blocks and recommended they remove the gas supply. Some demolished their stock, but many didn't.
And it's not the first time people living in the blocks on this estate have had concerns around their structure and fire safety risk. Shortly after the Grenfell Tower fire over 7 years ago, a risk assessment showed the blocks were not safe. The council then decided to turn off the gas supply, and residents were suddenly told they had to evacuate.
Remediation work was carried out and a waking watch introduced. The majority of tenants were moved away, including Daniel Gregory, who says residents had long been documenting the problems.
We had concerns for many years living here about the safety of these blocks, how they would perform in a fire, and the council never took our concerns seriously. After Grenfell happened, they started listening to us. They sent engineers to come and take a look, and it was discovered that the blocks were not only at risk of fire spread, but also at risk of collapse.
Some 50 families were moved onto the estate by Southwark Council from emergency accommodation during the COVID pandemic. The temporary tenants I met didn't want to appear on camera for fear it could affect their future housing chances with the council. Another temporary tenant and single parent who also works in education has been paying £800 a month for her 1-bedroom flat. It also has cracks in the walls and water leaks.
I came here and it was all the water over the place. It was in everywhere. The leaking was coming all over the ceiling. Maybe one day it's gonna come a very strong wind and the wall is gonna just go out, and maybe the house is not really safe.
All the Ledbury Estate towers are due to be demolished, and the latest fire risk assessment says they're no longer safe to live in. Once again, all residents must move out.
They have no autonomy, they have no power in choosing where they're going next. I think that's very unfair of the council. And it's not even short-sighted because they knew this. You know, nothing new is happening here. The council knew these blocks are dangerous.
Sometimes you feel like it's not fair. It's not fair what they've done with the families and with everyone.
Southwark Council are building hundreds of new homes to replace the towers, and they told BBC London their housing teams are working hard to find everyone secure and permanent homes amid a very short supply. Many of the residents have now been rehoused, but the legacy of large panel system housing continues to be felt. Aisha Baksh, BBC London.
And Aisha actually joins me now in the studio. Hi there. First of all, can you tell us why this is happening?
Well, Riz, in large panel system buildings, the cracks in the walls and ceilings occur because of movement of those prefabricated concrete panels, which were stacked together in a so-called house of cards-like structure. But the gaps mean that a fire could spread more easily through the building. It's called compartmentation failure, and it happened at Grenfell Tower. And also specific to large panel system buildings, if there was a fire or gas explosion, that weakened structure could see a collapse of the building, which happened at Ronan Point all those years ago. So not only are residents dealing with the anxiety, as you heard there, of the structural and fire safety risk, but also living with those daily problems caused by the cracks, which are resulting in water leaks, damp and mould, and they're not always aware of why it's happening.
And can I ask, how much of an issue is this in London? Because it's not only Southwark, is it?
It's really important to say this is not happening in all tower blocks. This is really a specific type of tower block, not just tower blocks actually, but low-rise as well. A specific type of building that was built during a very specific period, but as yet there is no central database or register. We know from campaigners though, and our own research, that there are many more LPS blocks in London and beyond, and as more and more councils do surveys and fire risk assessments, they are working out what to do with them. Can they be remediated, or is it better to demolish them? And new legislation introduced following the Grenfell Tower fire is putting pressure on councils to act, to register their LPS blocks and to also survey their stock. Now, I met with London Councils, the body which represents all the local authorities here, and I talked to them about this issue and what I had heard, and I asked them, given the history of LPS, how is this justified?
So it can't be justified. Government, including local authorities and including the industry, need to do everything that we can to improve building safety, and boroughs in London are committed to doing that.
Local councils, though, have known for decades about the problems associated with LPS blocks, but it took the Grenfell Tower fire to force them to reassess their properties. Why?
Grenfell has been a big change for social landlords. You know, we've recognised the duty we have to do more and to make sure that where there is a safety issue, it is fully assessed and that action is taken.
Well, I approached the government on this issue and they say that building owners do have a responsibility to make sure that their buildings are safe and they must register them with the building safety regulator. It's important to say also that tomorrow we'll be looking at the impact of large panel system buildings on leaseholders who bought properties in an LPS block in North London, and later in the week we'll be exploring the scale of the problem and what's being done to tackle the issue and legacy of large panel system buildings.
Okay, Aisha, thank you. Yeah, an issue that affects many people in London. Thank you very much for that. Aisha Baksh there. You're watching BBC London. Plenty more to come this evening, including this. Can you guess who? We speak to the amateur baker whose Claudia caricature cake has gone viral. Next, more than 3,000 homes and businesses in North London have been left without gas after water flooded into gas pipes in Barnet. A burst water main near Colney Hatch Lane led to buildings being shut off from gas for safety reasons yesterday. Gas and water companies say it could take a few days to try and solve the problem and reconnect homes. Lakshmi Gopal has been speaking to some of those affected.
Queuing for supplies to keep themselves warm. Thousands of people in the N10 postcode area left without gas heating and no knowing when it'll be back.
It has been extremely bad because I've got arthritis, which is exacerbated by the cold. So they're only giving one little heater, a hot plate and a blanket. I mean, I don't know what more they could do. However, we're the ones suffering.
There is no heating, therefore we're struggling. My daughter is unwell, she has bronchitis, so look at her. We slept like this in cold and
The water and everything is turned off, and since I got two kids, one is 6 years old and the second one is 2 years old. So I just heard the news that they are helping for the heater and stuff like that.
The gas supply has been shut off since yesterday after water got in the pipes due to a broken water main.
The actual leak behind us has been fixed, so that's great news. The big issue now, in the horrible bit and the painstaking bit, is getting that water out.
Teams will have to go to every affected home, more than 3,000 of them, to turn the gas off, remove water from the mains and then revisit to turn the gas on again. They're also making the rounds to deliver radiators to the most vulnerable. Others are helped at the Freehold Community Centre, and Finchley Lido Leisure Centre is being offered for hot showers.
There's been a queue at this community centre throughout the day as people have gathered here to be handed out bundles of blankets and heated throws and anything else that can help them keep warm in these conditions. And people have had to be quite inventive. One woman told me that she's used tea lights to heat up her breakfast this morning as they wait on any news and updates on when the situation might improve. Some residents have been really happy with the way Cadent has communicated with them about this, and others have said that they haven't been prompt enough with the communication. What's your message? What's your response to that?
We've got a website set up. We're getting into social media accounts to ensure that people are notified. We've had text messages sent out as well. So appreciate that that some customers may not feel that we've been as engaged as we could have been. But as I said, it's a massive operation.
And is it likely to be days or potentially weeks?
Again, really difficult to confirm that, but rest assured we're getting around as quickly as possible.
With temperatures near freezing tonight, for many here it'll feel a long, cold wait. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
Let me bring you a roundup of some of the day's other news now. The body of a missing man has been found by police at a landfill site in Essex. Kamali Trehan was last seen in a pub in Chelmsford mid-November and was feared murdered. Officers discovered his body on Saturday. A second man has been charged with helping former soldier Daniel Khalif after he escaped from prison. 23-year-old Khalif was found guilty of spying for Iran last November. Adil Khan, who's 30 and from East London, is due to appear in court tomorrow. And 2 women have been arrested after activists from Just Stop Oil sprayed orange powder over Charles Darwin's grave in Westminster Abbey. The Abbey says it's taking immediate action to clean the grave and doesn't believe there'll be permanent damage. Now, this summer marks 20 years since 7/7, when 4 suicide bombs were detonated on London's transport system, killing 52 people and injuring hundreds more. It led to the biggest police investigation in British history. A new BBC documentary series has been hearing from investigators, rescuers, survivors and grieving relatives about how that day in London shaped their lives. I should just warn you, you may find this clip upsetting.
Reports are just coming in of an explosion at Liverpool Street Station.
Through the city at peak rush hour.
It was the biggest act of murder on English soil in centuries.
Police are treating it as a terrorist incident.
52 people had been killed, 700 people were injured in today's events.
The horror and loss of life on 7/7 was something that I don't think any of us who was involved will forget.
Well, one of those who took part in the 7/7 documentary series is Thelma Stober, a solicitor from London who was on the Aldgate tube and suffered life-changing injuries. Thelma, it's so good of you to join us here on BBC London. Thank you. When you were asked to take part in this documentary series, did you have to think twice?
Yes, I did. I had to think twice about it, and I spoke with the group we call the 7/7 community about it, and we decided it was very important for the country and the world to remember what happened and the fact that it changed the lives of many of us, some of us significantly forever. 20 years may seem a long time, but it's very important people remember. You know, we all have life-changing injuries, and for many of us, including myself, those injuries continue and subsequent injuries manifest themselves.
Do you feel comfortable telling us those injuries?
Yes, of course. You know, I lost my left leg. I lost part of my right leg. I have internal injuries. I lost my hearing, and in 2019, after suffering headaches for several years, and it was then discovered that I've got shrapnels in my brain. So my brain is at the moment slightly submerged, and I have to have high definition scans every year to monitor it. And that in itself carries significant risks.
Wow. Do you feel comfortable talking about that day and how much you remember?
I remember that day. If you ask me what I did last week, I'll have to think about it. But if you ask me about what happened that day, I remember absolutely everything. I had the fortunate opportunity of leading the legal work relating to the Olympics. I was working for the Mayor of London at the time, and for years I worked on it, and my husband looked after my son.
And that was the day before, wasn't it, that London learnt that it had got
so
bid?
we won on the day before, which was the 6th, and I had promised my son to take him to school and to spend some time with him. Of course we won, so I decided to go to work, and everything I did that day, as many of us did, was different. I was on the train later that day. I saw the train and I ran for it. I went into a coach that I would not normally go in, and I stood by the door. So absolutely everything I did that day was very different from my normal day going to work.
Now, many of us remember where we were the moment we learnt of what happened. And one thing definitely sticks in my mind is the images of people helping one another, strangers, Londoners. Was there someone particular for you?
Well, there are two people actually. Two people who I regard as guardian angels. I was lying there on the tracks thinking to myself, well, when these things happen, they try to save people who are alive and not dead. So I tried to get up to help myself and put my hand up saying, help me, I don't want to die. And a plainclothes policeman called Tony, who took part in the documentary, came to my rescue to help me and told me to lie down because I may have internal injuries. He then went to get some help, and another chap called Colin came and sat with me and used his jacket actually to cover me because my clothes was completely burnt. Those were guardian angels, and I'll never forget them.
And as you say, just those small details that you remember. Thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate that. And can I ask Thelma briefly, what do you hope that people take away from this documentary?
Yeah. First of all, can I just make it very clear? I don't speak just about myself. I speak for the 7/7 community. And what is important for us, for people to take out of this, injuries are not a one-off. Whether it's seen or unseen, we live with those injuries. We all go about our daily lives. We try to make a difference to society. We have assistance and, you know, the London Emergencies Trust, the National Emergencies Trust. But it's important 20 years on for people not to forget. We live with those injuries, and it's life-changing and it's forever.
That's so well said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thelma Stober there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to say, all 4 episodes of the BBC documentary series 7/7 The London Bombings are available on iPlayer right now. To the magical nanny, that is of course Mary Poppins now, brought to life on the big screen in the 60s by Dame Julie Andrews. Well, here in the capital, a resident who painted this mural on his roof terrace wall in Earls Court has been ordered to remove it. We sent our reporter Gopal Verdi to find out what is going on.
If this artwork is allowed by Kensington and Chelsea Council, then why isn't this? Well, one is done by the world-famous Banksy, and the other was curated by local resident Patrick Spence on the wall of his roof terrace in Earls Court. He has been ordered to remove the mural by the council.
The issue from the council's perspective is that they think it is demonstrable harm.
Copatrick was inspired to paint the mural as a symbol of hope after being moved by world events.
I was sitting up here having lunch with my daughter and I was bemoaning the cost of living crisis and the despair in the world, and I said I wanted to paint a picture of hope. And the idea of Mary Poppins flying towards the chimneys, where her other half lived, seemed an appropriate symbol of hope.
But not everyone appreciates the piece. The Earls Court Square Residents Association says it's a breach of planning control.
Some like it, some do not. I have had representations mostly from residents who do not. They feel it should not be allowed in a conservation area and breaches the council's own policies.
Some people in the area would like to see the mural kept.
I think it's great that somebody's taken the initiative to brighten up this square with something like that.
I love it. It adds a bit of colour to the area. It's not hurting anyone.
If it was a Banksy, would we be complaining? I don't know, but I like it.
How would you feel if it was to be taken down?
Sad.
But it's not clear who owns the wall the artwork was painted on.
There were 22 residences. Because the council is unsure who actually owns that wall, they have written to all 22 properties with an enforcement notice. I consider it to be part of my living room. I own the roof terrace, and so when I painted it, I didn't really have any regard for needing planning permission.
In a statement, the council have said,
a majority of councillors at committee voted to take enforcement action due to harm to the conservation area. It is important that planning control is respected to protect the historic and architectural character of the borough.
I've got 1,000 signatures on a petition, 61 live in this square as residents. I consider that to be part of my living room, and I don't really see the difference between going down on the pavement and looking through someone's window and seeing the art on their walls. I don't see that as any difference to the art on my wall.
Patrick has until next month to remove the mural, but plans to appeal, because he believes it's practically perfect in every way.
Everybody could do with a little bit of magic dust from Mary Poppins.
Gopal Verdi, BBC London.
Now, it's a bit of a fringe off. I think Claude wins. Are you watching The Traitors? Don't worry, I'm not about to give you any spoilers. It is big on social media, of course, but so is a cake by an amateur London baker, which you might have seen because it's gone viral. The 55-year-old from Kentish Town behind the caricature bake of Claudia has been speaking to our aptly named reporter, Victoria Cook.
I love Claudia. When I was making it, I obviously made the initial cake and then the icing on top. And I was watching her on television as I was doing it, and I looked down and thought, it's actually quite similar.
When did you start doing cakes?
My sister wanted a cake, and she's quite fussy. And suddenly she said she didn't want to call in the caterpillar one. She wanted a crocodile one. And we were like, okay. And I said, I just joking. I said, I'll make it. Anyway, I did, and it was horrific. That's when I started. Then I kind of moved there to doing my own engagement cake. So that was an eye stopper. So then I did a Trump, I did a Mary Poppins, I did a Kamala Harris, I did the King and Queen, then did Ant and Dec.
Tell me about the mouths, because these are sort of the unique part of these cakes, aren't they?
They are. Plus the fact that I have had a hearing loss since I was born. So a mouth to me is a way of communicating, because I lip read a lot. So it was an obvious choice to start with the mouth.
What prompted you to start putting them all up online?
I had started to put it on, and from what the joy that I get from them to the joy that my family gets from them, it just kind of spread. The things they say, it's really nice and encouraging, and people saying this is artwork. And I believe you me, I didn't know I could do artwork.
So you are getting requests for these cakes?
Yeah, on Facebook and on on other social media, there's quite a lot of American and Australian, and they're like, can you ship it to me? No, I think the best thing is you have a real go and make it yourself, and you'll see how much fun you have.
Would you consider launching a business after all this?
Yeah, I guess I would. I'm not sure what the shop window would look like.
There are no words. Here to follow that with a check on the weather is Corsa, and thankfully after the weekend, temperatures nudging up a little bit.
Yeah, it was really cold. Well, it's been cold for many days now, Riz, but yes, a change is on the way to some less cold conditions. That's the good news. I say less cold, but today was very cold, wasn't it? We had some good spells of sunshine around too, though. This was a scene captured by one of our weather watchers in Ealing, but there was a lot of cloud around as well. So if you didn't catch some of that sunshine, well, it was quite cloudy and it remains so. But this is the change we're going to see. So we're losing the blues on the map, the cold air. We're drawing in the air from the southwest, milder conditions. And when I say milder, back to near average or just above. So it is milder compared to what it has been in recent days. And it is mostly dry over the next few days too. But there will be some mist and fog that may just linger, especially Wednesday morning and Thursday morning too. But for the time being, there's some clear skies. There'll be more in the way of cloud building though during the night, and some mist and fog forming as well. And temperatures overnight, well, holding up above freezing in some places. So we've had sub-zero temperatures for quite a while, but still quite a cold night to come tonight as well. So a chilly start to the day tomorrow. A bright start for some of us, but there will be more in the way of cloud tomorrow compared with today as well. Maybe 1 or 2 brighter breaks, and temperatures tomorrow afternoon 8 or 9 Celsius, so a good few degrees higher than they have been. And as we look ahead to tomorrow evening too, well, still quite cloudy. There may just be 1 or 2 clear breaks, but there'll be some mist, some low clouds, some fog forming by the early hours. And temperatures, well, 4 to 6 Celsius, so a much milder night. And then for Wednesday morning, well, it will be quite misty to start. That mist and fog will kind of linger in a few spots, quite cloudy conditions during the day, and temperatures 8 or 9, maybe 10 Celsius once again. And then looking ahead, well, high pressure does remain in charge, keeping these weather fronts at bay, but we are going to continue to see a lot of dry weather for us at least. It will be some sunny spells, but mist and fog lingering in the mornings. And that's your forecast.
Of course, thanks ever so much. And that is it. More stories, of course, on our website, including an unusual one. Perhaps you witnessed it yesterday when the annual No Trousers tube ride took place despite plunging temperatures. Mind the goosebumps, more like. And over on BBC Two at 7:30, my colleague and weather presenter Elizabeth Rizzini will be in the famous black chair for Celebrity Masterminds. From me and the team, whatever you're doing, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.